Pope Francis is dead. A man who redefined the papacy, shattered centuries-old traditions, and stirred fierce debate both inside and outside the Catholic Church, is now gone. But here's the real question: was he the last pope? Was this moment prophesied? And if so, what comes next? Stick around, because what you're about to hear might just change how you see everything. In the 12th century, Saint Malachy, an Irish archbishop, reportedly received a series of mystical visions while on pilgrimage in Rome. According to legend, he foresaw all the future popes in history, 112 in total, from his era until the end of the Church as we know it. These visions were later compiled into what became known as the Prophecy of the Popes. Each pope in the prophecy is accompanied by a short, cryptic Latin phrase. These mottos often refer to a pope's birthplace, coat of arms, or significant events during their reign. While skeptics argue these connections are retrofitted, twisting vague phrases to match known history, others insist the predictions are far too accurate to dismiss. The 111th pope is widely believed to have been Benedict XVI. And the 112th? That's where things get strange. This final pope is referred to as Petrus Romanus, Peter the Roman, and the prophecy states that he would lead the Church during a period of tribulation, culminating in the destruction of Rome and the final judgment of mankind. In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, the prophecy says, there will sit Peter the Roman, who will feed his flock amid many tribulations, after which the city of 7 hills shall be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge the people. The end. Many have argued that Pope Francis fits this final role. Though his name is not Peter, his paternal roots trace back to Italy, Rome itself. And the tribulations? They were abundant: internal church scandals, global crises, political controversies, and massive cultural shifts. So was Francis truly the last pope foretold by prophecy? Is the Catholic Church now standing at the edge of apocalypse? Or is this all just a case of eerie coincidences that people are desperate to link together? What do you think? Can a 1,000-year-old vision actually map the destiny of the Vatican? Or are we simply seeing what we want to see? Comment your thoughts. Could this really be the end of the line? Let's dig deeper into this mysterious figure, Peter the Roman. According to Saint Malachy's prophecy, the final pope would not just lead, he would shepherd the Church through fire. The phrase Peter the Roman seems both symbolic and specific, and yet, no pope since St. Peter himself has taken the name Peter. It's a name seemingly too sacred, or too dangerous, to repeat. But what if the name isn't meant to be taken literally? Jorge Mario Bergoglio, known to the world as Pope Francis, was born in Argentina. But his parents? Italian immigrants. His father came directly from Italy, giving Francis direct Roman lineage. In a broader sense, that could qualify him as a Roman. Now here's something fascinating. He chose the name Francis in honor of Saint Francis of Assisi, whose birth name was Giovanni di Pietro di Bernard I. Pietro. Peter. Is that a stretch, or is it precisely the kind of symbolic layering often seen in prophecies? Francis himself described his role as one of spiritual suffering and humility. His reign was marked by tension, from clergy abuse scandals and financial corruption within the Vatican, to global upheaval and rising anti-religious sentiment. His papacy occurred during a time of immense tribulations, as foretold. And he wasn't just symbolic. He was transitional. Francis often spoke about preparing the Church for its future, calling for a shift in mentality, a decentralization of power, and a broader openness to dialogue. Was this progressive vision the final attempt to hold the Church together before a dramatic unraveling? Now that he's gone, the symbolism becomes even more potent. If Francis was Peter the Roman, then have we entered the final stage of the prophecy? Some say yes, and point to current global instability as proof. Others claim that the real Peter the Roman has yet to arrive. But here's the big question: if Francis wasn't the final pope, then who is? And if he was, what comes next? Is the world prepared for what might follow? The death of Pope Francis isn't just the end of a papacy. It might be the end of an era and the beginning of something we can't yet define. Let's start with what made his time on the throne of St. Peter so unusual. He was the first Jesuit pope, the first from the Americas, the first to succeed a living pope who had resigned. Benedict XVI's abdication in 2013 was the first of its kind in nearly 600 years. This alone broke centuries of tradition. With Francis and Benedict alive at the same time, we entered a period of dual papal presence. This created confusion and tension within the Vatican. Who held the real authority? Who represented the true direction of the Church? Francis ushered in radical reforms. He pushed for interfaith dialogue, criticized capitalism, acknowledged climate change, and even suggested that atheists could reach heaven. These moves enraged conservatives and thrilled progressives, dividing Catholics more than uniting them. But behind these bold changes, deeper issues festered. Internal resistance, dwindling church attendance, political interference, and cultural disconnection haunted his leadership. Many insiders began warning that the Church was collapsing under its own contradictions. Now that Francis is gone, the Church stands at a crossroads. Will the next pope double down on tradition to restore order? Or accelerate reform to stay relevant? And here's where it gets darker. Some believe that what comes next won't be another pope at all. That Francis was the final spiritual leader before a vacuum opens the door to something unholy. A false prophet. A worldly figurehead. Or worse, an antichrist. Too far-fetched? Maybe. But history shows us that major institutions rarely die with a whimper. They implode with drama, betrayal, and radical shifts. So, who do you think the next pope will be? Or do you believe there won't be one? Could we be on the edge of the Vatican's final chapter? Stay with us, because this is just getting started. The idea that Pope Francis might be the last pope isn't just a religious theory. It taps into a broader, darker undercurrent in global consciousness, the sense that the world is spiraling towards some kind of climax. Let's connect the dots. We're living in a time of historic upheaval. War is back in Europe. The Middle East is in flames. Tensions between global superpowers are worse than they've been since the Cold War. Meanwhile, natural disasters are escalating, oceans are rising, and entire ecosystems are collapsing. Is this just part of Earth's cycle or a divine warning? Then there's the rise of artificial intelligence, genetic modification, and transhumanism. Technology is advancing faster than ethics can keep up. Humanity is crossing boundaries we never even imagined, man merging with machine, digital surveillance of the soul, AI-generated religions. Could this be the Tower of Babel, rebuilt in code? Add to that the moral decay many claim to see, a loss of spiritual direction, the rise of nihilism, and the widespread rejection of tradition and faith. Churches are emptying. New gods, money, fame, influence have replaced the old ones. If Francis was the last spiritual anchor of a fading world, what fills the void he left behind? And here's where it gets eerier. In many apocalyptic prophecies, Christian, Islamic, Jewish, even secular mythologies, the end doesn't come with fire from the sky. It comes quietly, with confusion, disunity, and the slow collapse of meaning. The death of a leader. A moment of silence before the storm. So ask yourself, is the death of the final pope a symbol? A signal? A whisper in the chaos that screams louder than words? Is this really about Francis, or about what his absence makes possible? Fire, do you feel like something big is coming? Whole, are we living in a countdown we can't see? Tell us below. And brace yourself, because if the signs are real, we might already be too late. Now the world waits. The College of Cardinals will soon gather to elect a new pope. But is this just business as usual, or something far more pivotal? Here's the uncomfortable truth. The next pope, if there is one, will inherit a church on the brink. Doctrinal divisions, loss of influence, dwindling followers, and a world asking whether the Vatican even matters anymore. Will they choose a conservative to restore order? A hardliner to bring back dogma and discipline? Or a radical reformer to try and save what's left? But some are asking a very different question. What if the church no longer chooses its leader? but is chosen by forces far outside the sacred walls. Globalism, politics, big tech, mass media. What if the next pope is less prophet, more puppet? A charismatic figure with a holy title, but none of the divine substance? A spiritual influencer, curated for modern appetites? And here's where things get chilling. Several conspiracy theories claim that the final pope will pave the way not for Christ, but for his opposite. The Antichrist. A false shepherd. A deceiver dressed in light. Too extreme? Maybe. But how many times in history have people said, that could never happen, right before it did? So who's next? An unknown bishop? A media darling? A religious revolutionary? Or no one at all? Speech balloon, who do you think should be the next pope? Brain, or do you think the papacy should end right here? Drop your predictions in the comments. This is where things get real. The last pope is dead. The prophecies are aligning. The world is trembling. Maybe it's all just coincidence. Maybe it's just a story people tell to make sense of chaos. But what if it's not? What if it's true? What if this is the beginning of the end?